Welcome to another episode of the Peak Potential Success Show. My name is Fong Chua, and today we have a very special guest. She comes highly recommended for her expertise, and it's something I think that's very, very important in this day and age because so many people have challenges, has issues with reaching success, and mainly because of either mental wellness, either their healthiness and whatnot. And what they don't understand is there's a lot of things behind the scenes that they need to really get in tune with in order for everything else to really fall into place. She's an advocate with unifying wellness and true health. She's been helping a lot of people out there overcome that overwhelm and confusion, especially right now when it comes to the medical space, that there's so much information out there, so many well-meaning professionals giving you advice and recommendations, and you don't know who's telling you the truth, you don't know who's giving you the right recommendations for you, and she's there to help people kind of sort through all that information so that it's right for you and your body and your mind, helping us differentiate between intention and attention to our healing so that we too can become our own health ambassadors. What else? She's also an expert with regards to intuition and consciousness, being an advocate with regards to education in intuition, helping us connect with nature. If we focus on intuition, unlocking that intuition, we're able to focus next on the steps to reach our goals, to healing our connection and alignment with our souls. She's also the author of 3 books. One is Journey of You, Intuition, and then also Essential Pocket Guide. As an subject expert in subtle energy, frequency, and also vibrations, she's able to help us understand how we can implement those strategies and techniques into our daily lives so that we too can be in tune with ourselves and our minds and all that great stuff. So please welcome Intuologist, author, educator, spiritual guide, Dr. Lenka Schulze.
Thank you so much for such a beautiful welcome. It's almost like we can just end the show right here. You pretty much said everything.
Awesome.
No,
Well,
really.
thank you very much for being here. Always a joy speaking with subject experts like yourself, who is so focused on helping people understand who they are. If you don't have the basis, then it's very difficult to succeed. And even if you did succeed, it's hard to maintain that success. So share with us that journey. How did you become the doctor you are now and focus in this realm? Because this realm is not one of those typical areas that people are subject experts in, but you are. So how did you get here?
I know you're going to ask me that question, and I'm like, I think I like to always go back into the beginning of words, success. What is it? Like, what is actually successful person? To me, when I was digging into the explanation, it's a person of action. And so the etymology of the word stands from come close after, which what does that mean? Is that something is coming, and then when we have the success, it's just accomplishing something that we have desired. And sometimes I feel that people are desiring things, and when they are not accomplishing the desires, it's maybe not aligned with their true self. So I feel like when you are aligned with your true self, then you becoming successful person in action. So if I go back to my beginning, honestly, I had never thought I would be today talking about this at all because my journey was more in the world of, yes, always have been wellness, always have been into feeling good, but more from the standpoint of physical, like the food started. I love food, any kind of food. If when I travel, I spend hours in the grocery stores. Doesn't matter, what other things is around. I'm always looking for the grocery store and the markets to see because there's so much depth in how people live, how they eat, and how the culture is kind of treating the nature of us. So that was always my kind of fascination. And the realm of the intuition in the subtle world, I think it was given to me. I call it the empty vessel because we didn't have belief system when I was growing up. Like here in America, people were not able to practice religion. So if you don't have somebody telling you how to think and what is the recipe for your mind, the belief system, the BS, I call it, then naturally you kind of become your own, guru. You kind of become your own kind of creator of your own mindset. And my own mindset was always drawn into the invisible, the mysterious. And of when I was in my 20s and 30s, that did not cross my mind, honestly. I kind of fought it. That was kind of where I wanted to be quote, quote, normal. I want to have a job that I can explain and people can resonate and I can fit in. And the more I was trying to do that, the more I was not successful, which means I was not having the action with the achievements, if that makes sense. So once I realized it, which was not easy. It took me literally really down. I surrendered. I'm like, okay, I'm going to just follow my joy because that's just what I have done when I was young. And here I am today. I have been blessed with meeting wonderful people, attending amazing places, and soaking all the information. And I feel that once we create that action and we create that success, it is our responsibility to share. And here I am trying to share what I have compiled in my field.
Awesome. I mean, when it comes to entrepreneurship and business and building a company, starting that journey, lots of people are thinking, go, 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 go. You put time into it, you put hard work into it, and you just work, 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 work. The whole mind portion of it comes kind of like takes a back seat. They don't realize that they need to focus on that until after they start feeling bad or after things aren't working out. So for you, you said you started off in the physical aspect first before you got into the intuition space. What for you was that first aha moment where you felt in line, when you felt in tune, and you go, this is what it is. Now I really have to share with everybody.
I remember exactly that moment. I was invited to some kind of a speaking seminar. I really didn't care what it was. I was there with my friend, and I was so happy to be with my friend. I really didn't care what was the seminar. I just showed up. And I was sitting in the chair, and then the person got on the stage, and she was talking about intuition and psychic world and mediumship. And I literally lit up. I'm like, I'm home. I'm home. And that was it. I just got kind of like that whole wake up. Here you are. And so from that point on, I'm like, why was I not pursuing this before? Well, I was busy. I was more into the experience in the human part of it. And I think it's very important because once you experience in the other part, it's still a very important part that you bring in forward. Especially in my field, before you enter into that spiritual aspect, not just the mind, but the soul and the heart, you do need to also have reverence and understanding the value of the human experience and then the mind, that you can bring the heart and then the soul with it. You can't just go with your open heart and not bring your mind with it, and then the other way around. You just can't go with your head and not bring in your heart. And I feel that is the disconnect. And even in the physical aspect of healing, I worked with the medical doctors, and we always talked about the fact that it is disconnected. You go to the doctor, you don't feel good. And the doctor may recommend, maybe you want to talk to some therapist or see a psychiatrist or go see, some meditative center. But then they don't bring the information back for the doctor to look at it and study how that mind and the body actually correlate. So nobody really shares this information. That's what it's so disconnected. That if that professional field will actually co-create a system that we can all share that information, not just that doctor does this and that doctor does this, and then this poor patient is trying to figure it out on his own. How is that correlating?
And I find that sometimes there's a lot of contradicting information too. Like when one professional is giving you this one advice and the other one's telling you that, then you're, well, who do I choose? In some instances, you're maybe paying for this information or paying for that advice, and you're like, well, I paid for this one, I didn't pay for this one. Does that mean that this one's no good? So for you, when you're helping people like overcome that overwhelm and sorting out through that confusion, how do you help them do that? Like, how do you find the right path between all this mess that fits them physically and mentally?
It's very important for people to realize that everything has energy, right? And so when you enter into a specific mindset, specific BS, belief system, It has an energy, it has a power, and every single BS belief system works. It really works because obviously we can have a placebo effect into it, which is 40% working already, right? And then, so what system I'm talking about? I'm talking about the Vedic. I'm talking about the Asian. I'm talking about the Western medicine, and so on and so forth. So if you choose, because I've been there, I wrote about it in the first book, is that, you go to the one and they tell you, okay, well, eat cinnamon, it's really good for you. And then you go to the other BS belief system, they're like, oh no, cinnamon is really bad for you, creates inflammation. And then, so you get really confused. Yes, garlic, no garlic. Yes, detox, no detox. Like, where do you go? I always say, create a healing team. It's very important that the energy is honed and it's like laser beam. So all that BS is actually created as a laser focus, and no one and nothing should step in there. So you are ultimately the person who is trying to feel better. So if you find this healing team, stick with it and make sure they all on the same page. Not somebody trying to compete, because that was part of my, in my professional life. I found that when people are start seeking other advice, the energy was scattered and it was not focused. So I always say, like, okay, if you go somewhere else, they might be saying something else. It's not that they are wrong. It's just you bringing in a different ingredient, different energy that might be clashing in your body because it creates confusion. So, however, we have one thing that is more powerful than any of this I'm talking about, and that is your will. Your your will to say, I am more powerful than all the other BS belief system and all the other practitioners, and I will pick and choose from all of them what works for me. And so that is another level of taking responsibility and understanding the system. But if somebody's not there, then the easier way is to stick with one system and believe in it. Truly, the placebo is very powerful, and don't listen to anyone else. However, you do have to feel also very comfortable with your professionals, if it's the medical, if you're using the Western system or using both, because I believe it would be beautiful to really create the bridge. The West meets the East, because both of the systems are valuable. But picking and choosing, it is that whole, how does it feel for me? I had a patient who would say, I cannot do turmeric. It's just, my body just doesn't like it. And I would say, honor that, because your body knows more than I do or anyone else. And so given that, okay, I don't feel good after I'm eating this or drinking that or doing that. I don't feel comfortable of sitting in a hyperbaric chamber or doing the PRP treatments or whatever you choose. You honor that because there's other things that potentially is working for you. And that is when we get into trusting yourself. And when we trust ourselves, we bring in that intuitive muscle that is becoming stronger and stronger, where you're standing in yourself strongly. And you could say very politely to these professionals, I really honor you. I really respect your knowledge, but I'll take maybe two things out of that whole package. And that's kind of where I'm going with. It's that's where people need to realize that you don't have to come home with a bag of goodies. You maybe want to take two things.
You said a lot of things there that really resonate. And there's a lot of people out there who goes, okay, wait a minute. If I follow one path, usually there's a grace period, right?
Mhm.
Things kind of like the changes might not be great at the beginning, but once you overcome that hump, then it's smooth sailing. That's usually what happens when you implement different techniques and strategies into your life. So
Mhm.
I know this is not specifically for a generalization, but what's that grace period for you? Like, do you give it a week, a month, a year before you go, you know what? Okay, maybe this doesn't work. On
Mhm.
top of that, you mentioned, okay, there's lots of different techniques out there. Sometimes mix and matching would actually be complementary of each other. So then, how do you pick and choose? Like, a lot of it is guess and test.
Yes.
So, what's that? What's the guessing and testing procedure for you, and what do you recommend?
Well, the first question I would answer with, okay, I now forgot the first question. Let's see. You were
The grace
asking
period. How much
the
time do you
grace
give?
period. Yes, the grace period depends. So if you're dealing with very, very serious illness, like let's say cancer and things like that, the cancer took a long time to get to the point, right? So 10, 15 years. So the grace period would be longer because you have to first detoxify your body, your mind before you start seeing something. So it could be anything from 3 weeks to 3 months, right? So it just depends. I also believe that the children, um, they recoup and you see the results much faster. Why? Because their energy just works much faster and just overall they don't have as much baggage as we do as we get older. So it just depends how old you are and what you're dealing with. If you're dealing with something just like something, I don't know, IBS or something like that. Again, depends how long you have it. Do you have it for 6 months or are you suffering through it for 6 years? That it will take time, longer or shorter. And I would say the habit, the changes of it takes usually about 3 weeks to creating something new and sticking with it. However, I find that it's very important what mindset you're using when you start doing or trying to do new things, which means, why are you doing this? And so let's just stick with this really scary thing, let's say cancer, right? So as we go into this, oh, I want to kill the cancer. And then you go to the doctor, killing the cancer, killing, killing, killing. Well, that doesn't work. You can't kill energy. You can create energy. You can just transform it. So when you're looking at your body as a beautiful divine instrument, and you start saying is that, well, right now my body created a cells that is not really my favorite. So it's like that instrument is a little off. Well, let's just bring it back into harmony, and that those cells will just transform themselves back to the positive stage, right? Like to be one with the orchestra. And you ultimately in the conductor. But if you go into that organ, that thing that needs to be killed, it comes from fear, it comes from control, comes from all these different negative aspects that you want to like conquer it versus just going with that love, like it's oh well, it's just going to work out one way or another, and removing the fear from it, because everybody is of course fearing the worst case scenario. And what is the worst case scenario, right? The worst case scenario would be you die. And people are very uncomfortable with even talking about that. But if we understand that we all gonna die, we just don't know how and when, and then just embracing the living aspect of it every day and live every day as if it would be your last day versus trying to stop and control something that is inevitable. But again, you see, that's the difference with how do you approach it? Are you going to your beautiful session of massages or acupuncture or whatever you're doing with that whole, I need to control this outcome versus I'm just going to enjoy this journey because now there's nothing matter more than me being the conductor of a very healthy orchestra. So that is very important, that mindset. How do you bring yourself into the new way of you want to be? What's going to be your success story? See, but the success doesn't mean always, like what I'm trying to say is that we have to look at the death differently. It's not bad or good. It just is. It's just like birthing. Dying is the same thing. It's just a process.
Very, very cool. You mentioned a lot of things during this period of time about spiritual frequencies, vibrations, intuition. And before we started recording, you also mentioned, hey, it's not very common that you're on a show like this where it's entrepreneurship and business and all that kind of stuff. So you get the stage right now and kind of talk about some of the most common misconceptions or most common myths that people think about this space that are totally not true, and how that misconception is not allowing them to actually get to where they want to go. So what would those be, and what's that? And we mentioned mindset. What is the mindset that one should have to embrace all this stuff so they can use it to their advantage?
Letting go of expectations. So there's a desire, right? So I see desire as a balloon you send into the universe, just like a little kid, having a balloon with a dream, desire, and you're just sending it out. And then let it go. Let it go. Have actions, follow it, see the aiming, but be okay if that action is going to start taking you in a different direction. Just like the balloon is floating in the air and you don't really know where it's going, allow to follow the energy of the feel good and joy versus I have to be the best author, I have to be bestseller, I have to have the most followers, I have to be all that, because that's a human desire. That is, like you said earlier, it's not sustainable. The sustainable is more into I following the joy. Whatever comes after that, it's just going to be a bonus. And so letting it go of that, also the expectation, it doesn't going to create disappointment because with that whole success, we opening up the door potentially to a judgment from others if we allow it. So if you are making some decisions that somebody would say is a failure, then and you susceptible to that, you're going to be spiraling down versus you really don't care about the opinions slash judgments of others. You just doing you, like you being you, and however that gonna show up in the world. To me, that is so freeing because the creative process. And I was listening to your podcast too, and I like how your coach would say, "Do this," and you're like, "Okay, let's do it." Like you don't even think about it. It's just like it's the experience through it. If you wrote a book and one person read it, who cares? You created a book. That's the whole thing. This is what you're taking forward, not in this lifetime only, but other lifetimes. These experiences are endless. And to me, that is a true value. Because let's just say, okay, this is a scenario. I grew up, like I was saying, in Eastern Europe and in the communism. Well, before the communists took over, the system, the government took everything from us. My family were farmers. They took everything from the tractors to the cows to the land. Okay. So where's your success then? So I want people to think about that. They're also, in Egypt, right? They took the queen and the king out of their palace like that. Done. Where's your success? So your success is in you, within you. All the things you have experienced, all the things you have done is your success because nobody can take that away from you. Because if everything physical is taken away, your gifts, you can redo it again. And that's to me is the true success, what we carry within us as experiences.
That is awesome. Totally agree with that with regards to because success is something that's different for everybody. And that's why one of those questions are like, how do you define success? As you mentioned, a lot of it has to do with you, how you perceive success, how you perceive that you're happy, how do you accept certain things, what do you let go, what do you don't let go. And that also kind of ties into your expertise in understand your own intuition and your soul. So for a person, like a regular person out there, explain to them, okay, one, what is their intuition? What is their soul? And how do they go about finding and unlocking those two things so that they understand it?
Mhm. Okay, so intuition and soul is kind of on the same platform. So intuition is the language and soul is the receiver. So it's the language of the soul. So when you communicate with your soul, the soul, okay, so if you think about it, you have two parts of you, you have the ego and you have your soul. And the ego has these things that wants to experience on a physical level. I want to go to, I don't know, climb the Himalayas. I want to publish book. I want to do this, all that. So this is the personality wants to do all of that. And potentially has this, I want to have money, I want to have a big car, I want a big house, nice car. That's all great. These are great experiences. But the soul is not interested in any of this. The soul is like wants to express itself through the personality. And that bridge is the language. So what does that mean? While the first part of your life, when you are gathering all the goodies and all the experiences, then the soul will come in, the midlife, and says, great, so it's my turn now. I want to be heard and seen. So how can all the things you have done serve the humanity? How can all of the things you have experienced serve others? It's the soul is all about others. It's not interested in you anymore. Even though it is the language of the soul within you. So the language is all about you because in the law of the universe is that when you, let's say, when you send a prayer, okay, it has to come through you. So you receive the prayer first before that person gets it. So it's kind of almost selfish. It's like you even heard saying like, when I give something, it feels so good because you get it too.
Yep.
So that is what the soul understands, which people still don't understand. You don't need to harness things for yourself because if you give it, it will be multiplied. And the soul knows that and it tries to tell the personality, no, 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 just give this or share this. It's going to come back multiple. You get more information, more things. And that's how you know that soul is speaking because you're going to go like, oh no, you don't understand. I can create some kind of lecture out of that and I can, make the. And the soul goes, yeah, you can, but I'm not interested in that. Why don't you just share it? Like, why don't you just go and just give it? So that is when the soul is interested in. It's for the greatest good of all.
Mhm.
And so that's when you know, when you're listening to yourself, what is the ego and what is the soul? It's the eternal, never, let's see, never ending essence of us and only is expressed in love. It cannot do anything else and is interested speaking only in the truth. And the truth is very transparent. So what does that mean? You have those people that will say, well, I have this great idea and I have this program that I had created and follow me for more, tune in. And then you tune in and then, oh, well, and then you have to click here and then follow this. And then you eventually get something. You sign up for this and then you're still not getting this. So that's what I'm saying. That's not transparency. It's nothing wrong with creating something and giving it, but it's transparent. You pay this, you get that. There's no between. That is transparent. And that's the soul. It's just that's very clear transactions. You see something and it's there. And people are like that. You can sense person and they're so transparent. You see right through them. Children, so transparent.
Mhm.
You know when they're lying, they took the cookie and they're like, no, I didn't take it. You see right through it. And then you have the adults, they're so mysterious, they're quiet, they're watching, they're all doing all that. And you don't feel comfortable because there's something else going on. And that's the difference between the truth and transparency and then that kind of like, I don't know, I don't see clearly. There's something that you should be aware of.
Is there something that a person could do on a daily basis that allows them to get more in tune with that stuff? Because
Mm,
everybody's so busy. I mean, it's so
mm,
hard for people to go, hey, let's go run for 20 minutes a day every single day. By the second day, they stop. So,
mm,
are there
mm,
certain techniques, strategies that you could recommend for people to do, like in their homes, first thing in
mm,
the morning, that allows them
mm,
to really get in tune on a consistent basis?
mm. Awareness, 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 which awareness means nothing more than consciousness. So when you get up in the morning, why are you getting up? Is that purpose, once you get the answer, is that serving your highest good? Are you enjoy waking up? Are you jumping like a bunny? I mean, that's what you're supposed to be doing. You should be rising in bed, not dragging yourself out of bed, right? So that would be the first question. Like just really asking yourself, why am I getting up? Why am I reaching for the cup of coffee? Why am I talking to that friend? Why am I making this book? Why am I going to this meeting? And these are the aha moments that will give you. And even if you're going for a run, why are you going for that run? Like, why? Is it going to exercise? Is it giving you clear air? Is it you feel better because you are around that quantum field of creative energy, which is the trees and the birds and so on, because that will tell you everything about you. It's that whole know yourself that the wealth sits. So if you go in aimlessly from point to A and B and C, you are in a certain level of consciousness. So I like to use the a high rise, you're in the first level and you're doing the same thing, and until maybe some point you are meeting someone at the fifth floor and they say, hey, why don't you come visit me for a cup of coffee? So you take the elevator up and you sit in and you're like, wow, there's a great view. I didn't know that Mrs. Smith is going to a grocery store every Thursday morning. And then, and so you see more broader perspective of life. Like you start questioning things that you have been doing so aimlessly, like eating that restaurant that makes you really sick, but you thinking you don't have time to make a meal. And so it's kind of like that. Why don't you have time? Maybe you are busy of looking at something else that is occupying you. But I feel like we are creatures of habit. So if we don't catch the habits, we will never know who we truly are. And once the time comes when the soul wants to knock on the door, I didn't even talk about how that happens. So it first kind of nudges you, on your shoulder and says, "Excuse me, here I am." And then if you're not paying attention, it's going to start smacking you, which means accidents, um, maybe something's wrong with your bank accounts, or people are leaving you in your job. Things are going to be not kind of aligning anymore. And then eventually it's going to be the 4x4. And that's what we're talking about almost like what 30 minutes ago, when you are on a pretty much on your knees and you're like, oh my gosh, how did I get here? Well, that's the soul speaking to you. You are on the wrong path. And so there's a different ways you can start paying attention to that aspect of yourself that could be really, really loud and you really don't want that, or just nudging you slowly and then just saying to you, hey, pay attention. And the awareness comes in really sinking in with your senses. Even when you are in the car and you are in a stoplight, turn off turn off the radio and pay attention to the cars and the drivers in it and what people are wearing and what are they doing in the cars. And that is you're literally kind of putting anchor in your physical self and you actually like marking the time in space. And that's when you start realizing things. And from that, you can just go on and, change things when you don't like it. But that's kind of like the whole stepping and putting anchor in time and space. That's where the awareness comes in.
So for people out there who goes, okay, I think this is something that's for me. It's something I need to look into a little bit more. What is the ideal type of person that you help and get the most results for? What kind of mindset should they be at this moment in time? What kind of scenarios are they? Are they already facing that 4x4 right now? Or at what stage is perfect for people to come to you?
All kinds. But I would say a lot of the people comes with the 4x4, which is really hard because a lot of them already are dealing with terrible diseases and things like that, that it's really hard to create that awareness on a spiritual level if they're dealing with such a physical aspect of survival, right? So that's much bigger gap. So yes, those are the people, but I love working with people. One ingredient is the most important, and we talked about this, mindset. If you are open completely into the most bizarre thing you never heard, if you just open to wonder, because that creates the DMT in your brain. When you heard people going out there and doing this psychedelic drugs and all that, you don't even have to go. One ingredient that creates the DMT in your brain naturally is the sense of wonder, to be the child again and questioning, being curious about life, about everything, how the rainbow works. How did the tree creates almonds and not apples? Like just those things starts like making you feeling alive, because the more you realize you know nothing. So once you have that mindset, I love it. That is to me the perfect person for expansion and growth and success.
I think the first step to that is ask yourself, when was the last time you did something new? And if it was years ago, then obviously you're kind of stuck in that comfort zone and that routine and that habit. And therefore, you're not experiencing that wonder. You're not asking those new questions. You're not learning anything new. So when was the last time you did something new or different? And once you start asking that question,
Oh,
hey, you don't know. You might learn a lot more things about the possibilities that's out there.
Yes. So you asking me what was the first, okay, so not too long ago, I have to say, there's a journey again going back to my childhood because again, we all have BS, belief systems, right? So for me, we were ingrained in our brains um, to be fearful, obviously, communism, and don't trust anyone. Don't say anything publicly. Don't write and put anything in a piece of paper with your signature. That was one of those things. But speaking was one of them because you didn't have a freedom of speech. And if you say something, most likely you will have consequences. So I remember my journey of opening up a Facebook account. You know how many times I closed it and opened it and I put some kind of quote and I deleted it. That was my journey. I was so afraid. So then I did a lot of speaking, but it was before the podcasting or videos. So that was very safe for me because nobody was really like recording anything. But for me, entering into the podcast world was terrifying. Terrifying because I never know what the heck I'm going to say. And sometimes, I can't even listen to myself. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I say? But that's the thing is that when you embrace that vulnerability in yourself and just say, what's the worst case scenario? I just make fool of myself.
Mm.
And hopefully people understand that that is just the journey of every single one of us to have compassion for one another. That yes, we're going to stumble and we say something silly and stupid and whatever. So that's what I did new. Yes, this is very, very new still for me.
Very, very cool. Well, hopefully this journey has been very, very fulfilling to you. And I'm sure that because you're on this journey of being on podcasts and doing a lot of speaking and whatnot, you're actually reaching out to a lot of people who needs this advice from you. So having said that, what's your next big thing? What do you foresee in the next little while here that allows you to impact more and more people?
I'm writing my another book, which would be about spiritual healing and the uh, the awareness. I'm trying to bring awareness, especially where we are entering into the AI world, to not forget that we are divine beings and we have every single tool within us, and we don't have to look for the outside world to make us whole. So the wholeness is within us. And how I'm going to be accomplishing this with spreading the word with the assistance of people like you. I think that being on each other's podcast definitely helps the world to have that ability to get the messages from real people and not the pretend environments that people are being paid what to say, if that makes sense. So this is a wonderful time of the AI that we can share one another's message from the authentic self. And that is my goal. And yeah, that's a really great question. That's what I'm trying to do.
Awesome. And I'm sure that with AI, the thing with AI is it's even more important to be authentic now because
Mhm.
it's hard to differentiate sometimes as to whether the AI is real or not real. And as long as people are able to utilize AI and use it to their benefit to enhance what we're already able to accomplish, that's even better. And therefore, authenticity really gets us farther along because that's so important.
Mhm.
So you've given a lot of great tips. You've given a lot of great wisdom and stories. If there was one more message, one more lesson, or one more advice that you can give, what would that be?
I would actually piggyback on what you said, which is the AI and the authenticity. And it would kind of line up with what my message is, and that is how do we really know what is true, what is not, what is AI, what is actually human being speaking from their heart? And there the answer is our feelings. And our feelings, again, is the precursor to the intuition, the language of the soul. The soul does not communicate with the brain, it communicates through feelings. So when you are watching a show or reading something, start paying attention how you feel about it, because that you will feel the authenticity of the message or there's agenda. Sometimes it's both, and that's what I call a deception. But knowing the difference is lies within you. And unfortunately, we are so buried into our mind and we're trying to figure out the answers in our head. And your mind will tell you always what you want to hear. It's serving the ego. But the intuition is the master, right? Intuition is really the key to finding the truth. And it doesn't matter if it's a food or is it a politician or is it your career. You have to get back into, it doesn't resonate with me. And you can end it with that. That doesn't mean you're going to have that same answer from your friends and family. It's just the resonance with you. And so honoring that and stop asking for other people what they think, just end it with you. And that's that recipe for the growth of your intuition.
Awesome, nicely said. Thank you very much for that. That completes our formal portion. I got 5 quick rapid fire questions for you. Give me the first thing that comes to mind. You're stranded on a deserted island, one food to eat for the rest of your life. You'll still be
Coconut.
healthy. Pardon?
Coconut.
Ah, spoken like a true foodie. Hollywood calls and goes, "Hey, Dr. Lenka, we love your story. I think it's very motivational and impactful. Who would you cast to play you?"
Sophia Loren.
Awesome.
She doesn't even look like me, but I just adore her presence.
Great. So she shows up at your door and goes, "Hey, I got casted to play you. I'm excited. Let's hang out. Let's get to know each other." You go, "No problem. I got the whole night planned out. What does that night look like to you?"
Nature. We just walk in the nature. And because I live in Florida, I probably would get on a boat and just cruise around and see the dolphins and the sunset. Yeah.
Sounds great. Now, on that boat ride, she's getting hungry. And you go, "No problem. Come on back to my place. I'm going to fix you my specialty." What's that special dish that you prepare?
Fruits and vegetables, just the plain dishes of very fresh and luscious fruits and vegetables.
Very nice. Last question. Give me a number from 1 to 4.
3.
1, 2, 3. So the word is air vents. Okay. So if you were to use air vents as a metaphor for success, how is success like air vents?
It flows. It just flows naturally and it has the free flow, which is very important to create the flow in life. The minute the vents are closed, you get stagnation and you have dis-ease.
Nicely done. So thank you very much. That is how success is like air vents. For everybody out there, make sure you connect with Dr. Lenka. Obviously, she's a subject expert in intuition, soul, all that great stuff that lets us get in tune with ourselves. Any final words from you? And also, what's the best way for people to get in touch?
I would like people to realize that our new currency for success changed. And I see it in the generations coming. And the currency is in freedom and integrity, transparency and authenticity. And so when we start inviting these powerful archetypes into our life, our change for the humanity will change. And how people can find me? Very easy. I make it really easy. Lenka.org. Everything is there. And I'm looking forward to connecting with all the listeners.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. And of course, she has the books on that site as well. And your upcoming book is going to be on there too. So make sure you connect with Dr. Lenka. Thank you very much, Dr. Lenka. Fong, until next time, today is the day to lock your peak potential. We'll see you later.
Thank you.